Alright, so today we will be surviving 1,500 days in hardcore Minecraft. In this video, I want to make myself a massive villager farm, take on 5 withers, and so much more. Mainly, I want to create a system where I can buy any enchantment from a villager for only 1 single emerald. It is a fairly tricky and lengthy process, so it is gonna take a while. So grab yourself a snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. And while you're at it, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications as it really helps out the video. And with that, let's just jump into it. Alright, so the first thing I wanted to do was create the villager trading hall, but for that, I was going to need myself a few more villagers, because I figured we were probably going to need 24 different enchantments or so, and I only had like 15 to 20 villagers available, so we just threw down a bunch of food from my farm, put down a few extra beds, and we were good to go there. Next, I had to figure out where I wanted to put this hall, and I already had this area set aside where I was going to move my villagers to eventually, but like, I never moved the villager breeding hall here, so I figured this is as good a place as any to start. So I just started clearing everything out because I obviously didn't need the beds or the decoration or anything, and I needed this space to be just a little bit wider because I wanted to be able to have villagers trading on both sides, so I need a little bit extra room. So I just dug out these extra walls here, and I figured it needed to be just a little bit longer to be able to fit 12 villagers on each side, so we just dug it out a little bit further. And this is what it looks like when it's all emptied out, and I wasn't actually going to bother decorating it at all right now because most of this is going to be covered with the little stations where the villagers are going to be, so I can decorate a little bit later. So for now, I'm just going to grab all of the supplies I need, which is actually not that much. Probably the most challenging thing was actually getting sticky pistons, which I didn't have enough slime balls for that, which was kind of annoying, but they're overall not that difficult to get. There's a swamp not too far away from my base, so I just flew out there, waited to nighttime, so I just flew around a little bit. It only took me maybe 30 seconds or so before I finally found a slime, and thanks to the looting that is on my sword, we got absolutely more than enough slime balls. But I rarely get out this way in my world, so I figured we might as well just get just a little bit more, you know, because I do use slime blocks and stuff like that for other projects, so might as well while I'm out here. So I got one more, and as I was flying back home, I noticed another slime, so I took out those slimes as well and had over a stack of slime balls, so we were good to go. Got back home, made all those sticky pistons, got just a few other bit of supplies I needed, like repeaters, some just redstone dust, some trapdoors, signs, chests, a little bit of decoration blocks, all that stuff. Again, really actually a pretty simple build when it comes to building blocks. You actually don't need that much outside of just the villagers. One of the more difficult things as well is you need a zombie to actually attack the villagers to turn them into zombie villagers. Then once you cure them, that is how you get the only 1 emerald trade. So you need to cure villagers. And I need a zombie, and I need him to not despawn, so I need a name tag. Lucky for me, I have a librarian master where I can just buy name tags from. By now, it's been plenty of time, and I could breed my villagers again, so I just threw down a little bit extra food. We had more than enough villagers at this point, but I figured, you know, why not? We're gonna be taking some of them away in the future. Then we got to work on the actual hall, and in between each of these acacia logs is where we're gonna be putting a villager, and there is 12 per side, so we can have 24 different enchanted books. And once that was done, what we did is we created a lane just behind each villager trading spot, and this is where the zombie is actually going to roam and is going to be able to attack the villager once I lower them down with the sticky piston, so that way they will only be taking out 1 villager at a time. And the added trapdoor on top of the sticky pistons makes it so that way the villager cannot leave and the zombie can't actually join the same space as the villager. But the problem was this redstone contraption I had to raise the sticky piston actually also activated the trapdoor, which was obviously a problem, and it took me a minute, but I eventually came up with just a relatively simple fix for that. And I just added a redstone dust below the lever, moved the repeater down 1 so it only activated the piston and not the trapdoor, and it all worked without affecting anything else. So I just went through all of the other little stations. Didn't take long, and overall, it was a really, really simple fix. So now by adding a trapdoor up top, that one right behind the chest there, that makes it so that way when we raise the villager up, they will be completely trapped and cannot escape, but they can still be attacked by the zombie to turn into a zombie villager. So how it'll work here is we'll get a villager on that trapdoor, place a lectern so that way they can't get away from this end, and then once we lower them down, the zombie will be able to get behind, attack them, but they cannot escape from that specific area, and the zombie cannot join that space. Once they're a zombie villager, raise it back up and you can cure them. And then there's just a giant lane back here so that way the zombie can access any villager once we lower them. So by closing all of that up and adding a little bit more decoration, the entire thing is basically done. We just need to actually get the villagers in here now, which isn't too difficult. We just have to use a simple minecart system. And lucky for me, I already have that built. I just need to build myself a simple pathway, and there you go. And it leads right to the villager trading hall. Add a few extra powered rails along the way so that way the villagers keep on moving, and now it's time to get started. Actually, getting a villager in a minecart is kind of annoying. I don't know why, but they sometimes shove it. It's overall kind of confusing. I don't really know. But anyway, you get them in the minecart, you just shove them till they hit the powered rails and they get all the way there. And right here, I don't know why, but I decided to break the minecart before the villager was sufficiently trapped. I don't know what I was thinking, but for some reason that villager then just went and trapped itself in a different trading hall and then just refused to move. So I just shoved him back a little bit, put the lectern there, and there you go. I don't know why he refused to move, but there you go. Now he's stuck in this one specific spot. So yeah, I don't know, again, what I was thinking. Don't break the minecart before they're actually sufficiently trapped. Got myself a new villager, give them one little push, and they're along their way. This time I ran into a new problem where I placed a temporary block behind them, but I didn't place one below that, and so they accidentally glitched into it and started suffocating. So note to self, place 2 temporary blocks behind them, so that way they get stopped and don't go too far, but also don't suffocate. And what was actually annoying me at this part is that these villagers weren't actually turning into librarians, despite the fact the lectern was in front of them, and I couldn't understand why. I broke this one lectern, and I realized by the movement that this villager, for some reason, was being attracted to a different workstation somewhere in my mansion rather than the lectern right in front of its face, and it didn't realize it couldn't get there because of the trapdoors that were messing with its AI. So that was exceptionally annoying. I eventually figured out a simple fix is just to place actual solid blocks in the way of the villager, and then that should eventually make them realize that they can't get to that different workstation. They then start looking for a different workstation, and they become a librarian. So yeah, just had to build a little bit of dirt around them to the point where they could realize they needed that lectern right in front of them. And by now, I thought I finally worked out all of the kinks, and that I should be able to get a new villager all moved in without any trouble. So I shoved them. I made sure they didn't suffocate. I placed dirt blocks all around them, placed the lectern right in front of them so that way they couldn't escape that way, got behind, broke the minecart, but then they glitched through the wall. So note to self, need to place a dirt block on that corner so that way they actually stand on the trapdoor and don't glitch through the wall. So by now, 4th time's a charm. Surely I've actually got this figured out now, how to do this flawlessly. So I went, got myself a new villager yet again. So I moved them along. I flew out to my mansion only to realize that I forgot to actually move the rails to the new spot. So then I tried to shove them, but it didn't have enough momentum to get in the spot. So I ended up having to actually break the lever, add another rail so that way I could actually put them in there. Then once I did that, finally I placed all of the temporary blocks, broke the minecart, and they were actually in the proper right spot this time. So by now, I had finally worked out all of the necessary kinks in this thing. Finally, I was able to do everything flawlessly, and we were able to move on. I eventually stopped waiting to turn every single villager into a librarian because eventually I figured out they turned into librarians anyway, regardless if I placed like dirt blocks or anything. So I just moved on, and we could just skip ahead all of that until finally we actually had one full row of villagers all in my trading farm. A few of them still weren't librarians. Like I said, it took them a minute. They'll get there eventually. I didn't bother with dirt blocks or anything. But what I need to do now is I need to actually get the proper trades from all of these librarians. And the way that you do that is you just break and replace the lectern until you get an actual trade that you want. So to prevent them from being able to escape when I broke the lectern, I just had one simple little trapdoor above them, so that way they can't move forward. And we had the lectern in our offhand, so we just broke and replaced, and we did it over and over and over again. Until finally, with this one villager, I got power 5, which is obviously an enchantment I want. We moved on to the other villagers. We got smite, we got aqua affinity with another one, and we just did it over and over and over again with all 12 villagers. Until finally, we had an enchantment we wanted from all of our 12 villagers, but there was a problem. What I did not realize is that their trades actually refreshed after a certain amount of time if you didn't lock them in. I thought their trades only refreshed if you broke the lectern. And as you can see, understandably, I was upset because I just wasted like 30 minutes of my life getting all of these trades that I can no longer use. Note to self, as soon as you get the trade that you want, trade with that villager and lock it in. Otherwise, they will refresh the trades and it will just go away. And then we had to do it all over again by breaking, replacing the lecterns with all the other villagers. So we finally, here you go, now have actually 12 different trades that we can trade with these villagers, and they are all locked in. Obviously, they're all not 1 emerald yet because we still need to turn them into zombie villagers and then cure them, which we will do later. But for now, at least we actually had the trades we needed. And now what we needed to work on actually was getting 12 more villagers on the other side and then breaking and replacing those lecterns. But that is super, super tedious. And I mean, I don't need to repeat myself. So we can pretty much just skip over all of that. The process is the exact same as it was for the other side until it came down to just the final few enchantments. And it took me so much longer once it got down to the final few because I couldn't just go with any max enchantment. I was looking for a specific max enchantment because I didn't want any like max level trident enchantments or max level crossbow enchantments because I didn't really need nor want those. So I wanted very specific enchantments until finally we got all the way down to the final one. And as you can see right there, I didn't actually bother kind of getting Smite 5. I only got Smite 4 because I could not get Smite 5 to save my life. And I never used Smite anyway, so I figured heck with it, we'll move on. So now what we need to do is turn them all into zombie villagers and to cure them. Once nighttime finally came around, I just let a zombie inside my wall and then let it chase me all the way over to my acacia mansion. Took off all of my armor because it had thorns on it and I didn't want the zombie to attack me and die. Let it all the way into the lane behind all of the villagers and then trapped him in and made sure to name tag him so that way he doesn't despawn. So now all we have to do is lower down a villager. The zombie can then attack them, and I figured I actually had to run away because the zombie actually prioritized wanting to attack me and not the villager. And as you can see, once I got close enough, it stopped attacking the villager because it wanted to attack me. So I had to make sure I stayed away long enough so that way the villager would actually turn into a zombie and when we could cure them. So you just splash them with a weakness potion, golden apple, wait 10 minutes, and they are cured. So now we just have to do that with all 24 villagers. I eventually realized the weakness could actually reach 3 zombie villagers, so I'd use 1 weakness potion to heal 3 at a time, so I saved myself some time and some weakness potions. So I did speed up the process a little bit that way, healed all villagers on one side, but at this point, we actually ran out of gold and we're running low on apples, so we couldn't do anything further. And as you can see right here, we can now trade for a mending book for only 1 emerald. But we actually cannot trade for a looting book for only 1 emerald. It costs 4, as you can see right there. And the fix for that is really just simple. You just turn them into a zombie villager again, cure them again, and then it'll actually be a 1 emerald trade. But for now, I needed more golden apples, and for that, I needed way more gold. And lucky for me, I actually built myself a gold farm in the nether. So I just flew my way out there, turned on the manual kill mode, turned on my auto clicker, and just started harvesting the gold. And now I needed more apples, and the easiest way to get apples is to break leaves with a farming utensil because it breaks it really, really fast and you can have looting on it. But I actually lost my netherite farming utensil, and I don't know how or when I lost it, and I needed a new one. So lucky for me, I have a villager trading hall to get any enchantment I could possibly want. So I just went and bought all of the enchantments. Due to my previous videos where I made the massive netherite beacon, I had some netherite left over, made the netherite farming utensil, added all of our enchantments from the books that we bought, and there you go. In no time flat, we had a maxed out farming utensil. Overall, super simple, and that's exactly why we were building this entire villager trading hall in the first place. I went ahead and made myself a haste beacon and then planted a bunch of trees up on my tree farm so that way I could instantaneously break all of these leaves with the farming utensil to get as many apples as possible. Once I broke basically all of the leaves that were easy to reach, I then just started breaking all the logs so the rest would decay. And as you can see, after doing all of that, we got ourselves 27 apples, which is more than enough. So I went through the entire thing again, and I found all of the villagers that weren't having 1 emerald trades, turned them into a zombie villager again, cured them again, and by now, basically all of them only wanted 1 emerald trades. I then did the exact same thing for the other side, but again, we can skip over basically all of that. It's the same exact process. You just infect them, cure them, infect them again, cure them again, until finally, multiple days later, we had pretty much 1 emerald trading for all of my villagers. For some villagers here and there, they didn't actually have 1 emerald trading. Like, for instance, this Smite 4 book cost me a few emeralds, but ultimately, I don't care. I have literally a raid farm to get an unlimited amount of emeralds. If it costs me only 3 emeralds, I don't care. It's close enough. But for the most part, all of them only require 1 emerald. So our project was pretty much completed. And the first thing I wanted to do was actually get myself a Frostwalker book and put that on some boots, because I've actually never used Frostwalker before and I don't know what it's like. So yeah, I figured now is the perfect time because it's not a regular enchantment. You've always had to use books and I've just never done it. So I started using that and I was immediately met with disappointment when I realized you can't run jump to spawn the ice. The only way the ice spawns is if you run directly into the water, but if you jump into the water, it doesn't do anything. So it's still slower than Elytra, and it's actually slower than a boat if you don't have any speed. So yeah, it seems like kind of a pointless enchantment. It was kind of really a letdown. I expected more, honestly, but hey, now I can finally say that I've actually used Frostwalker, despite the fact that it's been in the game for like 2 years at this point. So there you go. Next, I realized I had way more iron than I actually needed, and I could make like 2 beacons from this thing. But the problem is I didn't actually have enough beacons to go with, you know, the beacons that I built. But lucky for me, wouldn't you know it, I already have a wither skeleton farm, which actually stands to be improved a little bit. I needed to spawn proof the area around my wither skeleton farm even more to make it more efficient. As you can see, there's a lot of blocks where like pigmen and stuff can spawn, which hurts the spawn rates of my wither skeletons. So I got some stone slabs, spent about an hour spawn proofing the area. I installed a mod so I know where I needed to place the blocks. As you can see, everything inside that red hologram needs to be spawn proofed. I didn't actually feel like doing literally everything because that would take me hours upon hours upon hours, and I don't really need to do that. But right here, as you can see, I finished spawn proofing the rest of the nether fortress, and then this absolutely massive chunk of landmass right next to the fortress I also spawn proofed, but I didn't bother getting a lot of stuff. There was still a lot that needed to be spawn proofed that I just didn't really feel like getting to right now, and just doing all of this, what I did right here, was good enough for now. And as you can see, it insanely helped because now we are getting more wither skeletons than we did before, which means we are going to get more skulls a lot faster than we did before. So even though we didn't spawn proof everything, what little we did do was still massively help our wither skeleton spawn rates. So all we have to do is use a few fireworks with our elytra, fly up in the sky, fall on our honey blocks so we don't take fall damage, wait up here like a minute or 2, and then once we fall back down, there's a ton of wither skeletons waiting for us again. After doing this for probably 15 or 20 minutes or so, we managed to get ourselves 15 wither skeleton skulls. So yeah, that's enough to spawn 5 withers and get myself 5 more beacons. So I grabbed everything that I wanted and we flew our way back home. And now I think I've proved myself enough in this series that I can kill however many withers and ender dragons and stuff at the same time. After a while, it gets kind of boring. I decided to make myself an actual wither farm, which is pretty simple. You just place a few obsidian blocks underneath the end portal in the end because those cannot be broken with explosions. You then just spawn the wither in actually sideways on top of those obsidian blocks and he will be glitched into the bedrock of the spawn portal and cannot escape. And so you just smack him around a little bit until finally you get your star, and there you go. It is that simple. I then just repeated the process with the other 4 withers, and in a matter of only like 2 or 3 minutes, we have managed to take them all out. We now had 5 wither stars, which we could turn into 5 beacons, so we could finally fill out the rest of our beacons down here. I placed 2 on this base down here, so I get max effects on everything. I then expanded the beacon up near my tree farm and placed the other 3 up there, so we can get max effects from all of this. And then after just adding a little bit of decoration with some glass, we now have all of those shining nice and bright. It is insane how many beacons I have around my base at this point, and the fact that I have enough iron left over for still nearly 2 full beacons is insane. I don't even need beacons anymore at this point. I've got so many. I've got this full iron beacon right down here with this orange lighting. I've got another full beacon. Inside my castle, I have another full beacon of iron. And then if we fly away a little bit at my creeper farm, we have yet another full iron beacon. The amount of iron I have in this world is absolutely insane. And we can still make 2 more full iron beacons if I wanted to. It's absolutely insane. Now, I do have some bad news from all of this though, because as I was admiring my base and everything, I decided to go say hi to my rare blue axolotl, Blue's Clues, only to realize that it was gone. But Blue's Clues is gone, guys. I put him inside the aquarium and he's not here. I was so confused and upset. I did some Googling and apparently it's a pretty common glitch that axolotls will just despawn randomly for no reason. What absolutely infuriated me was that no axolotls from my axolotl breeding farm actually disappeared. They were all still here, and the one singular axolotl I put behind my bed was also still there as well, which means with over 150 axolotls in my world, the one singular one that disappeared was the rare blue axolotl, and that is it. The only axolotl that disappeared was the only one that I cared about. So I was really upset, actually. I mean, I liked that axolotl. I spent so much time to get him. So I figured since I already had the farm made, we might as well get myself another axolotl. So I started moving all of these third axolotls out of the way, and I decided to count, and I actually had, from all of this, 152 pens filled with axolotls. Double that means we have 304 axolotls right here. So I decided to expand that, and I figured, you know what? It didn't take me too long breeding to get the axolotl the last time. It shouldn't take me too long this time, you know what I mean? So, you know, I did a little bit of breeding with all of these axolotls, and eventually, sure enough, right here, there you go. There's a rare blue axolotl. I finally got him. But the problem is, that was not quick to get that axolotl. I had to build 768 different pens to fit axolotls in. That translates to over 1,700 axolotls. It took over 15 days in-game without sleeping. It took over 5 hours in real life just to get that one rare blue axolotl. I had to breed axolotls over 2,000 times. It was the most annoying thing, but finally actually being able to look that axolotl in the eyes looking so cute, it was all sort of worth it. Yeah, as you can see right here, here is my massive breeding farm that I had to expand. So I just went ahead and took out these extra axolotls in the corner that I did not need, put that rare blue axolotl in there, and waited just a little bit of time before he finally grew up. And I just decided to name them the first thing that popped in my head, which was Mrs. Nesbit, which I'm certain some of you understand that reference. If you do, congratulations. And I mean, what really is annoying is I can't really display Mrs. Nesbit because they'll probably just despawn again, so I just have to keep them in a bucket, in a chest, which is so sad. You know what I mean? Oh, look at her. She's so cool. It's blue and gold and so rare. It took me over 5 hours to get, but they have to stay in the bucket. Otherwise, they will probably glitch and despawn again, which is so depressing. But yeah, just keep them in the chest. So I guess it was worth it, maybe. As this is all closing in, I decided to close this video out by yet again taking on the Ender Dragon for the, I don't know, 20th time, who knows at this point. And at this point, though, I do have a bit of a confession to make. This video is not actually exactly 100 days, and I don't think most of my videos from now on are going to be that way anymore. I have so many projects I want to do, but the problem is it's so hard to time them out to all be exactly 100 days. So I'm probably still gonna keep titling my videos 100 days, but they're not actually going to be 100 days anymore. I'm just gonna use the title because that's basically what this series is. I obviously still plan on doing the same amount of things and the same type of things. I'm just not going to stretch it out nearly as much anymore to try and fit an arbitrary deadline of days. I'm still gonna do the same projects. The content isn't gonna change at all, but I just wanted to give you guys that fair warning so I didn't feel like I was misleading any of you. Took out that Ender Dragon, went to bed, grabbed my trusty steed Pongo to admire my absolutely amazing work of building this massive 1 emerald villager trading farm. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, give me some suggestions down below in the comments on what you want to see next, and I will see you guys in the next one.